Tom wanted to, or Debbie or Haley or whatever, but.
Yeah. The Administrative Services Committee will come to order. All commissioners are present. The matter before us is the inmate communication proposal for the Grand Forks County Correctional Center. And I think we're to the point where we're going to hear from HomeWave about their proposal. So does somebody want to kick it off?
John, if you'd like to.
Yeah, I'll start. Yeah, thank you. Sorry. So everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Madam Chairwoman, members of the commission, my name is John Best. I am the CEO of HomeWave. I do apologize for not being able to be there today. However, I do have Mr. Tony Brooks, who would be the account manager for Grand Forks Sheriff's Office, as well as Brian Spinner, our Director of Business Development, who are in person there today. Quite honestly, I'm not sure what to expect today. We've been through appeals before, but usually they're resolved during the same meeting. So I would like to say I do appreciate the process, and we're prepared to answer any questions we need to do to get this moved forward. Two things I would like to say is, I do want to pay attention to the process that was as far as how the RFP process went through with Mr. Burkholder and the team that were on this project. This is a team that had over 100 years of correctional experience. They weren't obligated to go through the RFP process because there's no cost on this project. However, they did anyway, because they know it's a process that really works to evaluate and vet out what the best product and service that can meet the county objectives are. From what I saw in the process was textbook with any procurement guidelines. Quite frankly, the evaluation that we saw was one of the best I'd ever seen. I know Brian Spinner has the printout of that evaluation, and I encourage everybody to take a look at that because it was really impressive, really well done. The only other thing I want to say is, I do respect, Reliance and Mr. Hangsleben and their position on this. From what I hear, Reliance is a company of integrity. And, in this industry, if you know it very well, that's few and far between. So I can appreciate that. I do believe that loyalty to local providers, especially one with that long tenure, is important. And we should absolutely, as a county, you should absolutely look at that and evaluate that. But if that was the only variable in making these decisions, we wouldn't be here, right? So, the only other thing other than that is I think some of the things that Mr. Hangsleben said last week were inaccurate and some of them just outright false. And so I know Brian Spinner, who's the Director of Business Development for HomeWave, is going to speak to some of those here in just a bit, just to make sure that we set the record straight of some of those, and everything else outside of that, I think, is open to interpretation and open for evaluation, which we're fine with. So having said that, hoping very least today to bring to light the due diligence of the process and everything that went through with this, and just correct those inaccuracies and do what we can to answer any questions to get this process moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Spinner?
Yes. So if that'd be okay, I have some handouts I'd like to present you to the commission, and then I'll kind of guide us through that as well. So let me now, in all candidness, so what we've done, just to kind of clarify and be able to look at apples to apples, it's copies of the same handout that you did receive last week, so it's familiar. And all that we've done is, I heard one of the questions that came up was whether, what was factually inaccurate through there. That was a question that was asked, and I don't know if that answer was readily available. So our team did a deep dive, our proposals team that put the proposal together, myself, as well as Tony. It was a team effort, but we went through and we actually did a deep dive on which things we can categorically say were inaccurate, but we also want to present you with what the fact is on it. So, and then along with that, I do have a copy of the evaluation that John referenced as well. So you can see the side-by-side comparison, and that comparison was not done by us. That was done by the committee. Oops, sorry. Skip over. All right, so one of the things that HomeWave takes pride in is a matter of business practice as well. So if we entertain and respond to every instance that a competitor, made claims, assumptions, anything like that, we could be here going in circles for a long time. We don't fault anyone for that because we intentionally do not make all of some of that information readily available for that exact purpose. For competitors to go do research on our website, because we do the same. We go to competitors' websites, we do our research, we try to find holes, we try to find opportunities. So there's certain information that's not going to be made readily available by design. So that being said, again, that's why we don't fault anybody that doesn't have accurate information, but we do want to make sure, my position as a director of business development is not only to help grow our business and expand our business, but it's also to maintain the integrity of the business as well as the integrity of the company. So that's what the goal is here. So as we go through, I've highlighted and just labeled the areas that we have made notes, just to kind of save us time that we don't have to rehash everything. We don't want to get into I don't want to address any of the pieces that were verbal only. The only thing that we're addressing here is just what was put in writing as opposed to anything verbal. So in regard to HomeWave rates, I believe one of the statements and one of the calculations that was put in here was to add an additional 31.8% to what our per minute rate is. Much like Reliance, any taxes, any other additional fees are built into our rate. So our final rate that we're charging, including any built-in taxes and everything, is 20 cents a minute. So that 20 cents should be compared to the 25 cents because that's the final cost, all taxes included that the visitors and or the inmates will pay. So that applies to the collect, direct bill, prepaid collect, debit calling, each category. So you see, and I stated that I didn't want it to seem overly negative or anything. I more wanted to bring it to your attention so we knew which pieces were highlighted as far as labeling the ones that were categorically false, not something where it's open to interpretation or opinion, but that's the factual inaccuracy. If you turn to section 3, scope of services offered. Scope of services offered. Yes, HomeWave telephone experience 5 years, correct. Texting capability. So false, on that, I marked that as false as well. So our messaging feature is a built-in feature in the HomeWave Inmate application that does not require additional interfaces. It automatically enrolls inmates into the system when integrated with the JMS. So it is done per character. So you saw some of the pricing on the messaging, which varies. You saw anywhere from 1/4 cent up to 10 cents. That's going to depend on the size of the message. The message can be charged by character. So it's going to be, our group of 4 characters is going to be a penny. So the size of that message, which members of the commission, if that's okay with you, I can also show you kind of how that appears because I think a comment was made last time as well. 5 years ago, 2 years ago, texting was a thing for kids, teenagers, and now everybody's pretty comfortable with it. So built in within our application, our texting app exists just like on the outside, with the one exception that visitors that do text, that create an account, that is easier access for Mr. Burkholder and his team to be able to track those inmates and visitors and see that activity even in a live real-time setting. So you can see exactly what's being texted. And that's all one touch time, one touch to that particular, we don't have to dial in a 10-digit number. It's one touch to that person. So it's designed for the convenience, but I can show you exactly how that interface looks, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
So as you can see here, it looks just like the normal text screen would look where it's a back and forth. They have the ability to send pictures if they like. This is just a sample where Happy Father's Day went back and forth. And as you put that, it's also going to confirm what you'd like to pay for that message. So before the message is sent, this message is going to cost this amount of money. Would you still like to send this message? So it's very clear to them how much they're going to be paying before that's sent through. So, and the reason I'm showing this again is because, saying that, a statement that says no text messaging is available, this is to show you what our text platform looks like. So by my definition, there could be open to interpretation, but by my definition, I would consider that a form of text messaging.
Question,
Yes.
how does it show up on my phone? Let's say my wayward brother's in the correctional center and he's texting or he's using that message service. Where does that show up on my phone?
That's a very good question. So on your phone, the visitors that are receiving these, like as I mentioned before, they set up the accounts for security purposes. So when that happens, there are push notifications that actually go to that visitor. So if I had this phone in my pocket, my phone would buzz in that app and it would pop up on my home screen and say, you have a new message from your, and it would have your brother's name on it. So it would notify you that that message came up. You could open up and it'll show right there. And there's a message back. Rather than typing anything in, you can type in the message right there. You can use access to the same emojis you have on your normal keyboard. The nice thing about that is if there was ever security risk, let's say they figure out their own language with emojis or pictures or things like that, we can limit the accessibility on some of those features to where they can only send certain things. We can turn off the pictures if we need to. Things like that. If they're using it, you know, for an appropriate reason, we can turn it where it's just truly text and not pictures and whatnot.
Good question. What device? What will the device look like?
For
It's not a phone like that.
for the inmates?
Yeah.
The inmate is going to be a full tablet in which we can, Tony, I don't know if we have that here or if you guys are able to pull that up, I can pull that up as well. I don't have a physical copy of the tablet with me, but I can actually pull up, I can hook in and I can cast it up there, or I can pull up a piece here if you'd like and show you online what it looks like. I don't have a physical copy or
We may have
physical.
had it along last time. I recall it was a much bigger device than that.
Correct. And Tony, did you present that?
I'm gonna get an image so you can just show them.
Yeah, I can pull it up here.
Madam Chairwoman, members of the commission, I'm going to pull it up. I had it ready. It just took me a little bit to figure it out. So I'll put it up on the big screen. That's okay.
John, excuse me, will it allow you to share?
I believe so.
Okay.
So if you're able to see this, everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So just, you know, quick slides here. I wanted to make a note that, you know, our tablet was designed specifically for this environment by a company out of Scottsdale, Arizona by the name of Juggernaut Design. So they designed products that were military grade, meant for rugged environments. And we commissioned them 2 years ago to help with the design of this and the build of this. And it's been in the process. But here's the tablet itself and the rugged scale. And I'd be happy to show you all the testing that it's went through for dust, water, drop tests on concrete, you know, but it's specifically built for this environment, not just the hardware itself. The actual software on it is a custom built mobile device management software that was built for this environment. So we're not talking about something off the shelf that you would use for enterprise that would go in office or schools or anything like that with kids tablets. This is meant to, we did plenty of field research on it to understand what all the challenges that correctional environments have with inmates. Fortunately, we weren't the first in the game and we got to learn from a lot of them. But so we built it based off a lot of the challenges and, you know, so all the way down to the firmware of it. So it's got tamper alerts. It's got ability to wipe itself if it falls offline. Let's say, you know, an inmate takes it and hides it and we lose track of it for whatever reason, it'll wipe itself after 24 hours, basically making it unusable. You know, to speak to what Brian said about the messaging, because we built our own custom mobile device management software, which is the brain of it, that allows us to control every single aspect of it. I mean, we can essentially configure it however we want. We can set it up where those messages, those text messages only go to the mobile application for the friend or the family, or we can actually have it go directly to the native messaging app on your iPhone, either way. From our understanding, historically, a lot of our customers want them to have to register first before they can message. But if the county desires that not to be a thing, then to be able to message them right as soon as they get booked in, it's configurable in that manner.
Thank you.
To further, in addition to that messaging, so yeah, I did show you on my phone, I was showing you from a visitor perspective, and I probably didn't make that clear. So and that's for Apple and for Android. We have apps for both of them. Those are free applications, easy to download. Our visitor support can help to download as well. As long as we're there, I don't want to spend too much time on that because I want to stay on the agenda here. But within that app as well, you can go to, if there's multiple inmates that person connects with, you can see their balances. There's frequently asked questions. There's tutorials on how the app works, how to schedule a visit on site, receiving an inmate call, anything they would need to prevent any other staff burden, any staff intervention trying to deal with visitors. The correctional staff has better things to do than babysit visitors. They're already babysitting, sorry for lack of a better term, but watching over the inmates. So taking care of the visitors is not something that they need to be wasting their time on. So that's kind of why that mobile application is so friendly. They can even go make cash deposits on there onto the inmate's account from Walmart, CVS, Dollar General, without even having they don't have a credit card. They're not approved for a credit card. They can go do a cash deposit, scan the app, they hand the money, and it puts the money straight on the account. So let me get back on task here. So obviously we're not Grand Forks taxpayer, so we're not going to claim that. I pay taxes in St. Charles, Missouri, but service location. So I did place false here. So we're actually, John is sitting there in our corporate headquarters in St. Louis, Missouri. So that is where our corporate headquarters are. However, our service locations are always local. So we always contract with local providers. And the way that process works is either through the pursuit process when we're direct contracting, or once an award is made and once a particular bid is awarded, we actually have a kickoff meeting with the jail, and we actually look for preferred vendors that have experience with your facility if that's what you desire. If you prefer for us to work with a specific company that knows the ins and outs of your facility, that would like to take on that responsibility, it's not difficult. It's very basic. I've installed stations myself, and I am not a handyman by any means. So it's not difficult work, but we actually look for that first so that you guys have someone you're comfortable with. If there's no preference, then we can go out and find our own local professionals that can be here within same day, hours, depending on what tier that is escalated to, which is in our offering, which is in our standard service level agreement, speaks to our service. There are specific tiers that we have to respond within certain amounts of time. That is all part of the agreement and was part of our offering. So that is all required, which would absolutely require somebody local. I woke up in St. Louis, Missouri today and was here by lunchtime, but there may be instances where you need somebody here within 60 minutes. So that's what we are going for, not to be, flying across the country to get here. Tony started in South Carolina. So as far as commissions go, so 65%, 35%, 35%, all that's accurate. As far as no source of description included in the proposal, during the clarifications process, HomeWave presented following additional information regarding minimum monthly guarantee as well as GBR. MMG is not part of this particular offering, but we included that definition as well. So you can see there we defined what those actually come out to. In addition to that, which is actually confidential, we did provide a sample statement as well, just so you can see how it laid out. So that was provided as well. So it actually broke down what a sample revenue statement would look like. So if 35% is going there, 35% of a particular fee is put there. To clarify in terms of internet, that is the monthly recurring internet strictly for what is used here at the facility. That doesn't have to, that's not all of the internet. It's not getting the internet installed. That's all on us, all the cabling, all of the installation. And then we inherit whatever side of that monthly internet is from us. Yep, and it's all deducted out of the revenue directly. And so we take our responsibility for our portion as well. That's completely separate from anything the visitor pays. We obviously aren't going to handcuff ourselves or the county with visitors internet, otherwise we'd be going all over the country. So those definitions are there, as you can see. In terms of the tablet being a generic Android, I think we've spoken to that already. John described our tablet. The tablet itself, he pulled 3 slides up. It's about a 160-page slide deck, and we didn't want to bore you with that. So it went through all the dust testing, humidity testing, depending on what area of the country you're in, as he described. I think he did that justice already, unless there's any other questions on the tablet specifically. In terms of the wall kiosk, so some of this is open for interpretation, so I'm not going to make any blanket statements. But as far as being a fixed design with sharp metal edges located on each side, unsafe. all I'll say is what we have here. The HomeWave kiosk was built following a 14 gauge steel ergonomic design, and the sides do have rounded edges. So from what, and John can correct me if I'm wrong, from what I know, we've never had an instance of anybody breaking skin on one of our kiosks from either running into it, being slammed into it. And if that's a concern, I would probably be looking at putting some pads up on the cinder block walls, because in my opinion, a cinder block wall would be just as dangerous as our kiosk as far as if somebody's going to make contact. And I would, and this is not to take away from tablets because it's a different scenario, but I would feel more comfortable putting one of our kiosks in my 10-year-old's room than handing them a telephone to them, letting them run around with it. But to speak to the safety of it, they do have rounded edges, and that's the part that I wanted to factually. Whether someone determines it to be unsafe or safe, that's obviously open for interpretation depending on what your idea of safety is. So I'll leave that. In terms of tablet phone, by definition, I wanted to at least clarify there, our tablet does offer all kiosk functionality, including the ability to make voice calls. So from that tablet, you can do voice calls, video calls, messaging, paperless forms, you name it, it's done from there. It is designed to mimic what you have here, and from one spot, one touch dialing, just like you have on your cell phone. When you pick up that device, you can click phone, you can click video, you can click message, you can click into documents on your phone, same way. And the inmates can do that from the tablets. If there's ever a security risk, you need to lock down the tablets, they can do all the same functionality from the kiosk. It gives you two options depending on how far locked down you want those things to be at any given moment. Because all things to change, with the flip of a switch, for lack of a better term, all hell breaks loose out in one of the pods, and you need to secure some of those devices. They still have access to do it from the kiosk itself. So, but it is all one touch, and again, that includes voice calls. As far as, excuse me, let me get the water. As far as cost to the inmate for services, this isn't so much a false, because our rate is 20 cents per minute, but I just wanted to clarify, looking side by side to make sure we're comparing apples to apples. With taxes, fees, everything all in, the final cost to the inmate for us is 20 cents. The final cost, proposed cost from Reliance is 25 cents if we're comparing apples to apples. As far as doing any sort of deduction from 20 cents, I wouldn't know where to start with that because it's always been built in. That is our all-in cost. So to compare all-in costs, it would be a 20 and 25 cent comparison versus the 18 and 20 that you see here. So I just wanted to clarify that piece of it. Free shared tablet was a comment that was made on there. We are proposing a 1-to-1 ratio for each inmate. And again, we've talked about the accessibility and the details on the tablet, but we are proposing a free 1-to-1 ratio, which was in our initial offer and still remains in our offer. And then finally, at the bottom, in regards to, there's not really a mention made in correlation to the free tablet phone features, reviewing before accepting text message, things like that. So in terms of our free content, we do offer a limited amount of free content where there are books, things like that. Our educational platform is customized. It's specific to the correctional industry, which is why there is a price tag attached to that. That is not our offer to upload educational content that you give us. That will always be free. If you give us a link to a URL to a specific reentry program, to counseling, to rehabilitation programs, to a church service from a local church, if they provide you a video each week and you'd like that to be uploaded on demand each week so they have the most updated service every week, we can do that at no cost. That's a given. The One Huddle platform that's here that is priced or that's shown as a cost, so I believe it was discussed, but it was $5 per month per inmate, I think is what the price, yeah, it's on here, the movies, games, and the other entertainment. First of all, those are optional. We give those just like the free world. If they wanted to spend their funds on that, they can. But as far as the educational piece, that's customized and it's actually set up in a gamification format to encourage completion of various educational content. So things towards their GED, learning how to rebuild a transmission on a car. As they complete those things, you can set up a gamification model to where they could be rewarded based on what programs they completed, working towards full rehabilitation of the inmate. So that is the way that entire platform is set up. That is something that we bring in an offer, and that's why the price tag is attached to it. That's a fully developed platform, and we are the first in the industry and the only company in the industry to work with One Huddle and work with it in that manner. A lot of it is preloaded content, but as John described, it's mobile device management. So as that updates, we update the content as well. So that's constant, and that's not an ongoing maintenance fee or update fee. But again, those special requests, those are going to be no cost. So if you say, hey, we want to get this document on there, we want to get that on there. That's very, very simple. That part of it's the easy part. So I just wanted to clarify that as well. Sorry, I'm almost finished here. So as far as, again, this next one's just a clarification, the method to capture funds owed the county by inmates. And I may have John interject here as well. I wanted to clarify that the item was presented as an enhancement/feature sought and not as an RFP requirement, because I believe it was stated that was a requirement in the RFP. And it was under the enhancement/feature sought. And based on that list of enhancements and features, I'm fairly confident that I don't know that there was a provider that provided every single one of those, but we did see those as desirables. And if that's something that would need to be developed, John, I don't know if you're familiar with that particular piece where being able to deduct a penny from messaging or being able to deduct a penny from certain services would be possible to help collect outstanding liens and whatnot. We could certainly look to develop.
Madam Chairwoman and members of the commission, I mean, like I said earlier, it's the system is really, I mean, we built the entire platform ourselves. It's our source code. You know, we have the ability to configure it. You know, when we built this, we understand there are correctional facilities of all walks of life with different objectives and agendas. And probably the best thing you can do when you're building your platform to be able to win business is make it extremely flexible. And that's what we did. And that's why all of it's native to us. We didn't Frankenstein by acquiring a bunch of businesses and putting it all under one label. So we have the ability to do all of that. And it also gives us the opportunity to be able to offer the lowest prices because we're not having to pay to a third party. So yeah, I mean, I think the suggestion on that is a model that's specific to the chirpers, I believe. Maybe I'm missing it, but if that's desirable, certainly, you know, the RFP clearly stated all terms are negotiable. And I think that's kind of still yet to be discussed how that'll shake out.
Thanks, John. And then final, as far as anything that I highlighted, the exhibit A that was the very last page was actually an attachment to the tablet piece before. I think John kind of spoke to that already, so I don't want to bore you and go through the same thing, but that's kind of a leave behind to let you know that it's obviously not an off-the-shelf, not proprietary item. That's something that, you know, it's not an Android tablet or an Apple tablet or a Kindle or whatever else you can find on the shelf that we put a hardened case around. It's something that was specifically developed from the bones up, specifically for the correctional space. So what I've addressed here was what was in writing from last week. If there's specific verbal statements that were made that you guys have questions about that relate to HomeWave, if anybody has notes on those or questions related to last week, we are more than happy to entertain those as well. But I didn't want to respond in writing to pieces that were made verbally if they, you know, wanted to kind of keep words and you know, pen to paper. But we have the folks in the room here, including myself and John, that can answer any other questions that you all may have regarding any of the other pieces that may have created any doubt last week.
Any questions?
Go ahead, Lou.
How many correctional centers are you in right now?
I believe we're in one. John, do you have the active number? It's 140. I don't have the exact number on the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, we have, yeah. So it's a big year for that because of all the administration changes and demand for a lot of these products in general. So it's changing every day. But we're right now about 150 to 160 with another 20 in the queue to install, roughly 35 to 40 states nationwide right now.
The other thing, are you associated with any service provider here in town at the present time?
Right now, I don't believe so. We aren't associated with any service provider at the present time, correct?
No. We've got other locations in North Dakota, one other location, and then some facilities we service in Minnesota. Just to speak to that, we provided a service level agreement that we stand behind, and we intend on hitting that service level agreement. I can certainly understand the concern by the commission of that, but that hasn't been an issue with us recently.
You mentioned something there I want to go into just a second. Are you actually in any correctional centers in North Dakota at the present time?
Williams County, North Dakota. Yes, sir.
Where?
Williams. I guess I don't have anything else. Anybody else? Mr.
Another
Reed?
question on the, you were talking about the recovery from inmates. As I understand your approach, you would suspend service until the debt's paid off, as I know that.
That was the option that was put in the proposal. Now, as far as speaking back to what John said, that's something that we kind of viewed as negotiable as well, because that's something we can develop. But I think there was some unclarity from our proposals team as to exactly what that specific piece looked like. And now that we're understanding, and it was described even last week, it's looking to actually collect a lien to where we can deduct specific amounts from an individual's fees. That's something that we can develop, and we can create a system to do that. But right now it doesn't. So yeah, the proposal that was put in, and that was a way in order to collect. That absolutely is not a that wouldn't have to be. We were proposing an option for it.
Do you find any fault with Reliance, is what they call it, Reliance inmate wallet lien, how they're doing it? Is that what you're talking about that you could do?
As far as the wallet lien itself, I honestly couldn't speak to it because I don't know the ins and outs of it well enough. So for me to speak to it would probably be irresponsible at best. John, I don't know, as far as our ability to collect anything and do it, basically, again, hold back any fees. Like, let's say I owed money, you held back a penny of every call that I had into an account, almost like an escrow, and then was paid to go towards the lien that I owed the county.
I mean, it wouldn't, just to be clear, Madam Chairwoman, members of the commission, to be clear, it wouldn't require development. We have ability to configure the pricing structure as we configure, as we create the facility in our system. So that's part of the onboarding, part of the negotiation process, and we kind of have the philosophy that, there's going to be X amount of dollars that roll through the system. How we want to structure that, we know that we have a certain amount of money we need to make to make this profitable for us and make sense for us. And we know that you have a certain amount of money that you need to make for it to make sense, and as well as all the other objectives you have that were part of the RFP. So as long as we can align those things, what those are, how we configure it in the system, whether it's on the voice calls, video calls, messaging, the deposit fees, et cetera. We proposed what we proposed, but all of it is absolutely negotiable and able to be. If there's a specific reason for that, why that type of structure is desirable that maybe I'm missing, Madam Chairwoman, members of the commission, I would love to hear it.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Mr. Peach, here's my thoughts. I'm going to propose that we forward material for the commission as a whole, and the commission will have to vote on it anyway, and all 5 commissioners are here and have heard it. But I think, persistent. I'm gonna propose that we, for the commission at our next meeting, which is, when is that? The 20th of this month. And that will give us some time to, everybody's got copies. It'll give us some time to look at it. I was trying to, as everybody was talking, but it'll take a little bit of time to look through it. And that we then vote on the process. Is that agreeable?
Yes, did we need to hear from Ms. Wamstead about any, what she had found legally, what we need to do if there is an appeal by one vendor as
Yeah.
compared to another?
That's fine,
vendor?
yeah.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, I did have an opportunity to research this since our last meeting. Generally, the standard under the law is that the Board of County Commissioners has the discretion to award bids according to outlined procedures and criteria. But in making a decision, the board must point to a rational mental process for the purpose of achieving a reasoned and reasonable interpretation. And so if the board elects to change the decision that's been made, it would be best to point to the basis for the change of decision and why that change is appropriate. And then a party that is aggrieved by the board's decision has a right to appeal to the district court. And they have a 30-day time period to issue their appeal with the district court. And it's their burden to show that the board acted arbitrary or capricious in their decision-making on the process.
Thank you.
Mr. Hanksley, you had a comment?
Yeah, could I give you a little bit of information?
Well, I want you to limit, yeah, no, come forward, but I want you to limit it down. I don't want to spend.
Yeah.
4 minutes. You had your opportunity to present, and these gentlemen had their opportunity.
Okay. I'll just hand out this information. What I have here is, if this is what your revenue is under the existing contract that you have right now. And, I have a couple items to correct from last week's information from that. I'll just quickly cover those. Thank you. What this is, that first page, that's your current revenue right now. If you remember some numbers from last week, is that Brad had said that there's somebody that had 65 and somebody that had 75. Well, if you take a look at your numbers right now, is that they're way better than I thought they would be. If you look on the right side, the per inmate, per 200 inmates, is you can see the month of March was like really busy, really good. But in the month of April, we released the ability for the inmate to make phone calls on the tablet phone, and the revenue just took off. And that's not doing the video calls yet, which we can turn that on. We can turn it on tomorrow, but that's not doing the video calls. So if you take a look at it, we exceed the largest numbers that Brett had received from the other bids. And if you take a look at it, and then on top of that is you look at those numbers to the very furthest to the right, that's with adding video to it with a estimated 20%, but I actually think it might be more than that, but that's pretty conservative. You look at those numbers per inmate, nobody can touch this. Those are amazing. So what we got going on with our tablet phone, what happened is that when we put the phone calls on there, a lot of inmates signed up for texting because they wanted to use the phone calls because they can do it private. 92% of the calls are on the tablet phone. But what happened was we blew up the texting too. So these numbers totally exceeded what I ever thought, you know, so I had, if you see at the beginning of the year, you see that the revenue was $44, $51. Well, that's kind of where I came up with my 58, but I had no idea. And it's partly attributed to the people at Grand Forks County. They do a good job of handing them out. This is probably one of the best counties that I have for texting and phone calls. It's amazing. These guys are just doing an amazing job with it. So, you know, I sat and thought about it. Why make a change? I mean, you don't even have to change anything. You've got the best system right there. And I'll sit down with Brad and he, you know, we got the, where we recover the fees from the inmate, we'll add that to it. We got all of the material ready to load up and we could load it up tomorrow. So we give all that free stuff, education, self-help, we can turn all that stuff up tomorrow. Is that we've got the grievances and all of those things, we can turn that stuff up. Is that, you know, I reread what your options are in the RFP. And one of them, I'm coming from a commissioner's background, is that Grand Forks County reserves the right to reject any and all proposals. It's an option. You know, when you already have the best system right now, you've got the best commission that I believe you will ever get right now. And the thing is we're local. Is that friends and family come to our place to pay their bill with cash and checks. I mean, that's all going to change. And you're going to find out inmates going to be upset when they lose the device that has their name on it. It has a telephone number. Anybody that has Verizon, AT&T, they do not need to download an app. You know, that I know he said that you don't have to download an app if you're an inmate. Okay, that's fine. I don't disagree with that. But the people on the outside have to have an app. In our situation, you don't. And like 60% of the people don't pay to get the texting from the inmate. So you're gonna lose out on all of that because you have to download an app. So given those things, is you basically got the best system that there is. Nobody can do texting like we do. And it really shows when you look at these numbers, it's amazing to me. I mean, these are really good numbers. Just a couple things I want to correct on last week's statement, excuse me, is that Homemade Service, what they've got in their proposal is it's out of Hillsborough, Missouri. It's Advanced Communication and Cabling Solutions, Hillsborough, Missouri. That's the company that they list for their maintenance and installation, okay? I thought they should have probably said that last week, but Brad had turned it over to them and they never said anything, you know, and I feel that they should have said that at that time. When Brad said he thought they were local and they never responded to that. One other thing is Brad mentioned, he said that we were charging 75 cents for the Argus correction solution voice biometrics. It's 0.75 cents. It's 3/4 of a penny. So we're cheaper than they are. They're 1 penny, we're 3/4 of a penny. And I just either just look at it wrong or you know, but we're not 75 cents. They're 1 cent, we're 0.75. And then the internet fees. I still don't understand why you have to pay internet fees. But the other thing that they didn't mention is what they take off of your commission is cost recovery fees, and they don't define that. Okay, so they define the internet tonight, but they still haven't defined the cost recovery fees that are going to be taken off of your commission. You know, some of those things is that, you know, they say they do 65, but they do 65, 35, and 35. I would say that they can't touch our numbers. What you have right now at that jail, if you rejected all bids, you have more commission than anybody has to offer. And Brett pointed them out. The best that they had was 75 per inmate per per month. And we're I don't know if we're gonna hit 100, but it really looks like we could. If you look at those numbers, is that those numbers are creeping, and if we do like 25% instead of 20% of the video, I think you guys you're gonna hit it. So I think you got the best already. You got the local service. You know, we got 32 years of experience. We'll sit down with Brett and we'll go through it. What the things that he wants a few tweaks to the video visitation, we'll do that. We already got planned out how we're gonna recoup, you know, the bad debt payments. And from what I heard from what they had to say was maybe sort of, we'll see how it goes. I'm telling you, we'll do it. We'll do that. I mean, we're committed to doing that. We already discussed how we're gonna do it with the developers. We got a plan. You know, and the other item is the voice biometrics. We can put it on. And we got facial or video biometric, or where we can keep track of the face. So if you're worried about what the inmate, you know, showing behind him when he's doing a video, we got a blur feature that blocks that out. So I mean, we've got all of this working all over the place. And as far as North Dakota goes, we got every county but 2. This is for our service. And we have 165 counties in a 5-state area. On top of that, we license our technology to hundreds of other jails through 3 other inmate phone providers. I know I didn't hit them all, but if you got any questions, I'd certainly take them. And I appreciate you hearing me out, and very grateful for all that you've done for us over the years, and very thankful.
Any questions?
Yes,
Yes,
a question on the economics. In your materials you provided last time, you had items number 1 and 2 on the commissions. You say you doubled revenue since 2016.
Yep.
And I think you said something like, we will not double it again. How do you support that?
Okay, is that in 2016, let's go with the revenue that you had at that time was, I want to say it's, I'm just guessing here, 2,107, 217,000 is what your revenue was in 2016. And we made it to, like, the end of 2020 was, I think, was 356,600, or, you know, 356,000. So we almost doubled it. But by the time we go into this year, if you take like March, and anyways, we've passed the doubling mark, and now that the reason we doubled was because of texting. It was texting alone. But it's just on April 20th of this year, we released the ability to make phone calls, and so we've seen an expansion in texting and in phone calls, and that's why you see we're at, you know, like January we're at $44 per inmate. We're almost going to double that. I mean, and if we add the video, we are double. We've already accomplished that, you know, with this technology. You've got the best technology that's out there. So if you look at that, is back in 2014, we must have been close to, like, say $25 per inmate is my guess. And we're at 44 at the start of this year. But once we released, we talked about March, after everybody got money, so that's kind of a crazy month. That's hard to figure off of. But you take June's usually a slow month for us, and we're pushing through June with what we released on April 20th, whereas they can make phone calls and texting all in this one device. And it's really going. And once we add video to it, that number on the right, I think we'll beat that number on the right. So you really have the best in place right now. But we'll add everything that we talked about with Brett, that we said we would in the proposal. We'll add all that. And I'm like, just why not stay on this path is what I'm suggesting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have anything else?
Madam Chairwoman, members of the commission, I would like to, again, set the record straight on a couple of those things, just for accuracy, to put it on record if I can, please.
Yes, go ahead.
To be very clear, for all services, regardless if you're making a voice call, a video call, or a text message, does not require an app if we configure the system that way specifically for Grand Forks. That is configured upon creation of the facility in the system. By default, historically, most facilities have wanted a registration to happen for security reasons. That is their preference. However, it is not required to have a mobile app. If it was required, they would have to have it for just to make a voice call, a phone call, and that's not the case. So we can certainly configure it. I want to be very clear. It does not require any download at all for any service we provide. Mr. Hangslevin was correct that the install team that we have would come out of St. Louis, Missouri, Advanced Communications. It is a company that has family ties within HomeWave. And we trust them to do a great job. They're HomeWave certified. They do the same job every time on every install that they do. And we trust them with that process because that's a big part of your facility. The infrastructure, the security, their badge, they're wearing HomeWave shirts. That is not something you want to mess with. And so having that team do that for consistency is extremely important. However, when it comes to the ongoing service, we do feel it's important and to get someone that is local within an hour. We've got some prospects already that we're talking to and that will get HomeWave certified for the ongoing service of it and all the preventative maintenance. So I just want to make that very clear. When it comes to Argus, the cost for Argus, I just wanted to, at least show what was shown in the, let's see here. Apologize, I'm having some technical difficulties here. I'm just going to share my screen real quick of what both proposals look like. And you can see where the misunderstanding would be. So this was Reliance's at 0.75 cents per minute, and ours was 0.01 per minute.
Hey, John, we still don't see your screen.
I apologize. Which one are you seeing?
It just says John has started screen sharing,
Okay.
not backed up.
Let me try one more time.
Here already.
Any luck?
Yeah, it is the same sheet that you all have, I believe, the one that he's looking to share that has the comparison where it has the voice file metrics. That's what he's referring to with Argus. I'm sorry, John, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's all right. I'm not sure.
Is it the side-by-side comparison?
Yeah,
Yeah. We have printed copies of that.
Okay. And I just wanted to make it clear that I don't know if it was really a misunderstanding. I can see how it can be misinterpreted both ways, but just to be clear about that. Internet fees, to be clear, the county isn't paying the internet fees. The internet fees come off the top of the revenue because we feel that you shouldn't include the internet into a commissionable charge. It's $100. Again, it's certainly negotiable by the county, but to pay HomeWave a commission off of the internet charge or the county just a lot of times doesn't make sense. But again, that's something that can be negotiated. It is $100 per month. And then the cost recovery fee is right on our website. It's the same to everybody. It entails, it's a common way to do things because there's a lot of complex charges when it comes to communications, FCC, federal, state, local, whatever. So it is clearly defined right at the bottom of our website. It says understanding taxes, surcharges, and fees, and it's the same for everyone. We do not upcharge. There are a lot of companies that use a cost recovery fee. It's just kind of to consolidate all those odd fees that are out there for all the jurisdictions. One thing I will say that our cost recovery fee there is no upcharge to it. It is something that is penny for penny what we get charged from other providers that we don't, or for other government entities and things, FCC, TRS fund, all that. We we charge you exactly what they charge us, nothing more, and we can verify that if you'd like. I think that's everything. So, Madam Chairwoman and members of the commission, I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Mr. Burkholder, do you have a comment at all?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, I will make myself very brief and instead just give you a handout because I think you've been presented with a lot of information. And I just want to make sure you understand what we as a committee did and went through. We sat through 18 hours of demonstrations from 10 vendors looking at their products on site. And from that, we also reviewed every one of their RFPs. This is a spreadsheet. Well, there's multiple pages here. I want to make sure you see everything, and some of this may have already been handed out to you. The first page is every vendor we looked at and how we as a committee evaluated them. If it's in green, we saw that as a plus. If it's in red, we as a committee saw it as a minus. And I'm not going to go through it all, but it's there for your perusing. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me anytime. The second page, because we're doing a comparison today or an appeal between Reliance and HomeWave, this is just a side-by-side comparison of just those two companies. And the rationale that the committee used as to why we made the recommendation to HomeWave. We recognize that we've been with Reliance for 30 years. I've been with Reliance for 30 years plus. I know Dave well, I know Reliance well. We had to push all of that aside from all of us that review this and base it just on the facts of the RFPs and the demonstrations. So you have a side-by-side comparison of all the factors that we looked at these two companies. In the end, you see a summary. I won't go through it, but it speaks to what things that we looked at that we put HomeWave above Reliance in this situation. The following page is the inmate phone income. This is a spreadsheet I have been maintaining for years. It does show how much money is made by the inmate phone system and how much commission we are paid. When I use and have stated the effective rate of 34.37%, this is where that comes from. When you look at all of the money that is charged for the use of the inmates' phones and what we get in commission, if you do the math, it turns out to be 34.37 for last year and 34.63 the year before. So when Mr. Hangslaven and Reliance did not give us a percentage, they gave us the $58 per month per inmate. We had to extrapolate that. Well, that becomes what you see on the next page, on the back of that page, that single page. Another thing I keep track of is the commission per inmate per month. This has phone, texting, and video. So this is a summation of all those services. You can see that at the end of December 2020, circled in green, our commission rate per inmate was $59.56. This was using what I would call a subpar video visitation system. Turnkey Corrections did not have a mobile capability through much of COVID, and that hurt drastically. People could only visit via laptops, IBM computers, this type of thing. But even in that, we still had a commission rate of $59.56. So I knew this when this RFP went out. So it was disheartening for myself personally to see that the bid from Reliance was only for $58. When I believe he can provide a better video system, video visitation than Turnkey without question. Yet his proposal was less. You will also notice from the front page that in Cartel and NCIC, had monthly minimum guarantees that exceeded Reliance. So if by chance we were not talking between HomeWave and Reliance, I don't know that, or if we were talking to someone about someone other than HomeWave, I don't know that it would be Reliance. The committee did not rank Reliance and HomeWave 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. We came to you with a recommendation based on what we thought was the best. If you don't accept that recommendation and want us to reevaluate on others, we'll gladly do that. But from what I see of this, if we weren't talking about this today, of being HomeWave, I don't know that it would be Reliance. I can't speak for the committee because we've never had that conversation. The last page I included is a reference check. The one and only account HomeWave does have in North Dakota. It's from Williams County. They made the switch 18 months ago or so, I believe is what I was told. If you look at the comments in there, they had Reliance for many years as well. What they had to say, those HomeWave's tech is far more advanced. It's superior. The video visitation program, much more advanced and convenient for the inmates and the loved ones. I'm giving you this information so you can understand where we as a committee came from. It is nothing against Reliance. Reliance has served us well for many, many years. And had Dave come in and told us that we'd give you a guaranteed minimum monthly guaranteed rate of $100 per inmate per month, I don't know that we'd be here today. But we had to go with the facts that were presented to us. And on page 15 of his RFP, $58 per inmate per month. And then when you look at all the other things that we rated above Reliance's capability, we made it very clear as a committee that HomeWave was the vendor of our choice. But again, I will stop talking because you've heard a lot. But if you do have any questions, upon review, if you want clarifications, feel free to reach out to me at any time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
I have a question.
Yes.
Brett, up until this time, your experience with Reliance, how would you rate them? Extremely satisfied, satisfied, or failed?
Commissioner Knopf, members of the commission, I have deep respect for Reliance and what they've done. They have served Grand Forks County very well. They served me at Tri-County Community Corrections very well. They are very good at what they do. There's no question about it in my mind. But whether or not they're the best, I don't know that either.
Okay, but satisfied,
I would,
extremely satisfied, satisfied, or failed? I guess is where,
Okay.
what I want to hear.
they definitely did not fail. And they would be between satisfied and extremely satisfied.
Okay, but if you had to go satisfied or extremely satisfied, what would it be? It's important for me to know that.
I think you said there's somewhere in between.
Yeah, I know, but I'm not doing in between. I mean, if you picked one. You said there was one point, if they would have done something different or whatever it was, we wouldn't be
Yeah.
here today having this conversation. So that tells me that you probably were very satisfied, extremely satisfied with what they were providing. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but it's important for me to know.
That's a very difficult thing for me to target into those two words. I think Reliance has been very reactive to any issues we have had. They've been on site and resolved problems very quickly. I don't have anything negative to say about them that way. I did have a conversation with Mr. Hank Slavin 18 months, 2 years ago, and I made this request for this lien. I saw it 2 years ago. We needed something. We need some way to recover some of this money. And at that point, it wasn't an option. He has now rethought it, I think, and I think he sees that it wouldn't be a bad thing. I would definitely say I'm satisfied. It's whether or not I'm extremely satisfied. I don't know. I think there's some growth that we can find with other vendors, honestly. The product he has been provided has been great. And he's exactly right. Texting nearly doubled what we did. But we're not looking to double again, or if we were looking to double again, his proposal would have doubled as well. Unless I'm reading that wrong. If I'm the salesman saying that I sold you $100 worth of stuff last year, I'm gonna double it this year, don't you expect $200? That's the way I'm looking at it. And I could only, and we as a committee could only react based on what we were presented with. So I don't know that I answered that question completely.
No.
No. Definitely satisfied though.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Well, I think Mr. Burkholder brought up a good point. We have to keep in mind at the next meeting. We're either voting to go with the HomeWave contract, or we're sending it back to the committee to come up with another vendor, because Reliance isn't actually rated second by that committee. So, I mean, if you look at the spreadsheet, a lot of them came out pretty well. So I think if we'll have to decide if we want HomeWave or we're satisfied with their proposal. If we're not, then the committee's gonna have to come up with another recommendation for us. Okay, motion to adjourn, Commissioner Pete?
So moved.
Second, anybody?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned until the next meeting of the commission.
Thank all of you for your information.
Thank you again for everything you got.